Today we're talking about the best way to get the most loot in 7 Days to Die. Let's get to it. So I recently did a whole bunch of videos showing how to get the main loot in tier 3 POIs because I felt they were at the point where going after the main loot was really worth it. Tier 1s and tier 2s definitely have a main loot stash, but I didn't feel they were as worth it to go after as tier 3s and higher. And after doing those videos, I got to thinking, is that really the best way to get the most loot? Should you just go to all of the POIs that you can go to and go for the main stash and then leave, go to the next one, rinse and repeat? Or is it better to loot the entire POI, killing all the zombies with a chance for them to drop loot bags and looting as much stuff as you can in the POI? Now, I do want to point out one thing. I didn't take into account salvaging stuff. That would be a whole other thing on its own. This is just looting containers, nothing else. So I decided to devise a test to see which one of these options was better. This test is just a rudimentary test to give us a general idea of the looting experience between those two different ways of looting, and it isn't overly detailed. Sure, you could get some really good averages by spending hours and hours and hours, but I didn't feel that was really necessary to get a general idea of which one of these would be a better option. So what I did is I went through and looted the main loot in arbitrarily chosen POIs tier 1 through 5. I did not do the whole avoid a fight thing, and I used relatively mid-range to early mid-game equipment. I didn't optimize anything too crazily. I recorded right from the start of going in to get the loot, getting out, and then ended the recording. Then what I did is those same POIs, I went through and did a full loot following the main path that they want you to go. I didn't take any shortcuts or anything like that. I followed the main path in and out, bobbing and weaving and all that good stuff that they want you to do when going through a POI. And I looted every container that I could find. I was thorough and I was as speedy as I could be, but I didn't optimize the path. I didn't optimize and figure out where all the loot was. I did it as an average person would do it, just going through a POI, but I did go through it with a sense of urgency and I didn't mess around too much. I focused on getting the loot, getting in, getting out, and obviously killing zombies because you kind of need to kill zombies. Then I took all of those clips and I put them into my editing software and I cleaned them up a little bit, trimming a little bit from the beginnings, the ends, and if there was a situation in a POI when I was doing the main loot, and this only happened one time, where there was a bit of a holdup, I cut that piece out, spliced the two clips together so I could take a look at all of them and get average times. So going for the main loot for tier 1s and tier 2s, insanely fast. We're talking under a minute. Doing a full loot of the tier 1 POI that I did was just under 5 minutes. So tier 1s are insanely fast to do, and I would say that if you are doing a tier 1, your best bet's just to go through and loot the entire thing. It's quick to do whether you go for the main loot or not, and you're gonna get more loot from a tier 1 POI looting everything as opposed to just going for the main stash. Sure, you get a little bit better loot going for the main stash, but you get additional loot on top of that, and it doesn't take too long. Going through from tier 3 up into tier 5 is a bit of a different story. So from tier 2 to tier 5, you're looking at about an average of around 10-minute loot time. This is going through and being somewhat optimized, but not too optimized as far as like your player level. Obviously at a tier 5, if you're going to be doing those, you're going to be in probably better gear than what I did use, but you're going to need decent gear and you're going to be optimized. Zombies won't be that big of an issue for you. They won't hold you up too long, and they should take an average time of about 10 minutes. Now do note that I didn't choose one of the very large higher tier POIs. Some of them get relatively massive and could probably take much longer to go through, and you're probably not even going to be able to loot everything. And then if you do a full looting experience, you'll probably have to be dropping stuff off in your car and running back out and back in. So your looting experience is going to vary. The tier 5 that I did loot was the US Army Post number 7, which is a pretty decent sized POI. Now, at the end of looting each of these for both situations, just going after the main loot and doing a full loot, I put all of the loot into labeled storage boxes so that we could look and compare. Averaging the times together that it takes to just go after the main loot, it's going to take you on average of about 1 minute 50 seconds, so close to 2 minutes. Now, obviously this is going to vary depending on the POI, and a lot of this is going to vary depending on the POI that you're going after. That's why we're just using an average, and we're going to say that it takes about 2 minutes. So if we take that into account and we say that it takes about 10 minutes to do a full looting experience on a POI, that means that you can loot a POI main stash 5 times. So then I decided to do that and compare the loot that we get from doing a full loot to just just looting the main stash of POI 5 times. And obviously, if you're looting the main stashes of POIs, you're not going to be looting the same one 5 times, which I did do for consistency reasons. You would be looting multiple different POIs main stashes and then combining those loots to see. And those could vary from tier 1 clear up into tier 5, but you would want to be looting those as fast as you possibly can to maximize how much resources you're getting. But looting the same one 5 times does give us a general idea of what looting a specific tier POI 5 times would look like. So to compare, I just did the tier 3 and tier 4 loots to see what they look like looting them 5 times. And when we compare those, we get some rather interesting results. So if we take a look at the full loot compared to looting the POI's main stash 5 times in a row on a tier 3, we definitely did get more loot just looting the main stash 5 times in a row. We got a lot more books and a lot more variety of loot. But we also have to keep in mind that once again, this was looting the same stash over and over and over again 5 times, which you wouldn't be doing. You would be looting either a couple of tier 3s and a tier 2 and maybe a tier 1 in there. And when you think about that and consider that fact compared to the differences that we're seeing here, just looting the main stash of the same POI 5 times, you quickly start to realize there's not a whole lot of difference, or there won't be in a practical setting, because there isn't a huge difference in a non-practical setting. And that's backed up even more when we take a look at the tier 4 POI. Going through and looting everything inside the tier 4 POI netted us almost as much loot as just looting its main stash 5 times in a row. And there's one other variable that we have left out and not talked about when it comes to doing a full loot of a POI, and that is the amount of zombies that you're going to be killing and experience that you're going to be gaining from killing said zombies when you do a full loot run instead of just going after the main stash. In most cases, going after the main stash, you can avoid a fight altogether, or your fight is minimal, maybe 3, 4, 5 zombies, while the rest of them don't even know you're there and you've gotten the loot and got out. When you do that, you deny yourself a bunch of experience that you could have otherwise gotten on top of all of the other loot that you could have gotten. Sure, doing the full thing is going to take you about 10 minutes per POI unless you're doing lower tier 1s and 2s, but higher tier POIs also have more zombies and in some cases harder zombies that give you more experience. But if you don't care about experience, maybe you're already at end game, you don't really care about levels because you're already max character level, I would say without any real doubt that going for main stashes as opposed to doing a full looting experience is going to be just as lucrative for you. You're just not going to be getting the experience, but if you already don't feel that you need it, then you're not hindering yourself any by not going through the whole thing and killing all of those zombies. Early on though, I would highly suggest doing the full loot and going through and clearing the POI as opposed to just going after the main stashes. Early on, you need the experience and you are basically shooting yourself in the foot by not going through the full POI and clearing all the zombies that are inside of it. Overall, I found this little experiment relatively interesting. I thought for sure that looting the main stashes was just going to win by a landslide. I felt like it was so much faster and there was so much good loot in those things that it would just absolutely crush doing a full clear. But surprisingly enough, doing a full clear does give you a good amount of loot. And just like how eventually you're going to memorize where the stashes are in a POI and be able to go straight to those main stashes and loot them, eventually after doing some POIs long enough, you're going to start to memorize the path that you take through them, how to bypass some of the pitfalls that are in them, and where the loot spots are and what things you can loot, even though it is varied a little bit in situations. Like in some situations, sometimes a trash can will be lootable, sometimes it won't, sometimes a bookshelf will be lootable, but you'll know where those things are and know to glance at them real quick and see if you can loot them this round or not, which is eventually going to reduce those 10-minute times down, allowing you to get through them even faster, maximizing your looting experience, allowing you to move on to the next POI. So yeah, overall, this was very interesting. Let me know what you all think about these results down there in the comments section. Eager to hear what you all think. What way do you go about looting? Do you always clear? Do you just go in and browse through some of the main stuff like bookshelves, stuff like that, get in, get out? Or do you just go for the main stash and move on to the next one? I always find it interesting to read in the comments about different people's playstyles. So yeah, let me know. All right, that is going to wrap it up for this one. If you found this video helpful and informational, please consider hitting the subscribe button and notification bell so you can be notified when I upload other videos. And if you're looking for some more of my content, you can find a link to another one of my 7 Days to Die videos on the screen right now. I want to give an absolute massive shout out and thank you to all of my channel supporters for helping to keep these videos sponsor free. You all are absolutely amazing people. If you would like to become become an official channel supporter, check out the links in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. If you're shy, you don't like to comment, just hit that thumbs up button and share your support. Until next time, thanks for watching.